Hi everyone, my name is Ben. I'm going to be your instructor for today, and this is IELTS for All. If you're watching this live, you're watching on the Facebook group called IELTS for All. I'm glad you could join us. This is the third of 4 live lessons this week. Okay, I always try to do at least 4, sometimes 5 if I've got the time. The lesson that we've got for you today is on task 1. Okay, task 1. Diagram type of data. You know, task 1, you could get all kinds of different information, bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, a table with different data, and diagrams and maps are often the hardest ones to kind of get your head around. In this lesson, part 1, we're going to talk about organizing this type of essay. All right. If you're unfamiliar with task 1 academic essay style or organization, it's not that hard, it's not that complicated, especially if you follow my very simple strategy for doing that. Following a steady, consistent strategy allows you to focus on showing off your vocabulary, showing off your grammar. If you try to get too complicated with the structure, the organization, you end up losing control of your language use in a way. I see a lot of candidates fall into that kind of pattern, okay, or that typical mistake. Now, very quickly about me. If you've seen my lessons before, you know me already, but 12 years as an instructor, 5 years teaching IELTS. I've got an MA in education. I grew up in America, lived there until I was 23. And that's when I started living abroad. And I've lived in Thailand, and I went back to New York for a while. And now I'm living in beautiful South Korea, where I call my home. It's also where I teach as a university professor. So actually, I got done with my classes at about 3 p.m. today. I rushed home, I prepared this lesson, and now I'm with you here. Okay, so in my evenings and weekends, that's when I do all of my IELTS work. Okay, so if you're seeing me, it's probably after a long day of university teaching. So sometimes I don't have quite the energy that I should. You know that my students were not so good on that day. But anyway, I love cooking and I love disc golf as well. If you don't know about disc golf, watch a YouTube video. It's a really fun hobby. If you do not know your band level, I always recommend this is the most important thing for your progress. Find out what your band score is now. Okay? If you know what it is now, then you can plan to pass the test later. Okay? Don't take the test 2, 3, 4 times just finding out where your level is. That can be done for much cheaper and with a lot better feedback. Okay? The Cambridge does not really give you very much constructive feedback when you take an exam. So if you don't know your level, strongly consider taking an assessment lesson. You can see my Facebook page there, and I do offer assessment lessons for a pretty good price. Or there's a lot of other instructors that you could go to as well. None quite as kind and as experienced as me, but I won't hold it against you if you go somewhere else. But wherever you go, I really recommend starting with an assessment lesson. Okay, it's a great place to begin. Now, let's move into our task 1 essay here. Now, this is the prompt that we're working with. I hope that you can see that on your screen. Kind of battling with the limitations of my computer a little bit. So, oh, Samad, very kind words from you. My accent is very soft. Tell you what, I will be surprised if anyone can guess which U.S. state I am from. Post it in the comments. I wonder if you can guess. Based on my accent, even the region, maybe the U.S. region where I am from, I have a very typical accent of that region. So maybe you can guess, maybe not. Let's find out. So let's read this prompt here. It says, the diagram below shows the process by which bricks are manufactured for the building industry. Okay, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, write at least 150 words, of course. Now, if we look at the process, we can see, I might try to zoom in here for a moment. Bear with me. This might be ugly, but we're going to try. Try to zoom in. Oh, this is where it's going to start getting weird. Okay. Can we see that? I'm hoping so. Yeah, okay. Yep, we should be able to see it there. And you can see it starts from over here, right? We've got the digger, which is this machine, and we've got the clay, okay, which is a kind of dirt. All right. Now it moves on to a metal grid and a roller here, okay. Sand and water, okay, we combine it with sand and water, and then it either goes to a wire cutter or to a mold. So it appears there's two ways to handle this particular step, through wire cutter or through a mold. Okay, and that is where we've got the bricks. The bricks go into the drying oven, where they stay for 24 to 48 hours, and then a kiln with moderate heat, a kiln with high heat, and a cooling chamber, okay, for 48 to 72 hours, 2 or 3 days. Finally, the packaging, and then the delivery. All right, guys. Well, how are we going to handle this? What I'd like to talk about today is how to organize this essay. This is not going to be a very long lesson, okay? I'd like you guys to help me with the organization, and then for homework this week, I'd like you to actually write the full essay. In next week's Task 1 lesson, I will be reviewing those essays and giving as much feedback as I can. We'll go for kind of a 45-minute lesson, and I'll try to check every essay that I receive, but depending on how many essays I get, that will determine how thoroughly I can check it. Okay, so I'll post that event right after we finish this lesson so that you can write it immediately. If you have time today, write it right away and post in that event for next week. All right, I'm going to zoom back out here for a moment. Okay, good. Now, the task 1, we use a consistent outline for this. I talk about this all the time, the importance of a consistent outline, a consistent strategy for organizing your essays, whether it's task 1, general, academic, or task 2. You want something flexible enough, but strict enough as well. You never improve if you adjust your approach for each essay that you write. Okay, you'll never improve that way. I always use the example of golfing. Okay, like I said, my hobby is disc golf, which is a little bit different, but it's the same principle. You're doing the same body movement again and again. Now, playing a round of golf, 9 holes or 18 holes, every shot you take is a little different. Different distance, different grass arrangement, different lie, where you're in the fairway or in the rough, or there's a tree in front of you, right? Different obstacles, okay? Different elevation. Every shot is different, okay? And when you play a round of golf, it's a great test of what you can do, but it's not a good way to improve. You're not going to improve by playing a round of golf. That was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got about my golf game. You don't improve by playing rounds. You improve by going to what's called the driving range, where you're hitting exactly the same shot with exactly the same equipment again and again, perfecting that one small skill, and then change to a different club, perfect that small skill. That is where you see improvement, okay? So the most important thing, okay, is to use a consistent approach for each essay that you write, okay? I recommend my own approach, my own strategy. There are other small alterations of this approach as well, but choose one and stick with it. That's my best advice. Now, my outline looks like this. we have an introduction, an overview, and 2 body paragraphs. Now the introduction should be 1 sentence, right? And this 1 sentence should be a paraphrasing of this sentence right here. Okay? I'm not going to write one for you because that's for your homework, all right? But, for example, let's see. This diagram illustrates the way in which demonstrates, let's see, the way in which clay is transformed into bricks in order to construct buildings. I don't want to use buildings, but like this. Okay? Or this diagram illustrates the way that the building industry transforms bricks or transforms clay into bricks. Something like that. Okay? Same information. You just need to say it in a different way. Okay? That's step 1. That is the introduction. Now the overview is going to be 2 or 3 sentences, depending on how complex your writing ability is. Okay? And you want to summarize the whole story of this. Okay? 2 or 3 sentences to summarize everything that happens here. You want it kind of a big picture, a big perspective. Right? You want your overview to be somewhat different than your body, where you get into specific details. Okay? The overview should look at it sort of from a different perspective. Okay? So we see the kind of the context. I always think about task 1 as storytelling, really. And I see the overview as the message of the story, the moral of the story. What did we learn? Okay, what can we learn from this diagram? For the overview, imagine that you're talking to someone that has no idea about what it's like to make bricks. Okay, like you're talking to a child almost, or someone who has no connection with this industry. Right? You want to keep it really broad, really general, and very accessible for not an expert. Okay? The way that I always imagine it is that it's like you are an employee who's writing a report for your boss, but your boss doesn't have your technical knowledge. The overview is for your boss. Your boss is going to read the overview. The boss is probably not going to read the body paragraphs. The boss just wants to know, okay, what's important about this? Why do I need to know this? Okay? What is the overall message here? See what I mean? Okay, so this is more like the boss report, the overview. Now, we get into our body paragraphs, and this is where I want your help. Okay? Now, we want to separate all this data into 2 pieces. Okay? Now, in this case, with the diagram, we actually have it pretty easy because we have a story that begins here and it ends here. So we want to cut it in half. So I want to know where you guys would cut this information in half. Okay, we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-step process. We want to cut it off somewhere. Where do we do that? Where do you guys think we should do it? So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and wait for a couple of comments to come in. I see 7 people are watching right now, so if you are one of those 7, let's see your thoughts. I want to know what you think. How can we divide this information? Okay, I see one word there, drying, and I think I know what you mean there. Let's see a couple of other comments coming in. I see 9 people watching now. For those who just joined us, 10, welcome guys. We're trying to divide this information in half to separate into 2 body paragraphs. Hamza, I think I know what you mean, but can you say it in a little more detail? Where, like between what and what? You need to divide it between 2 steps. What do you guys think? Any other ideas? 2 people ran away. That's okay. Divide it over drying. Okay, I think that's what we're looking for. Exactly. Okay. All right. Add up from India. Welcome. I'm glad you could join us. And I totally agree with Hamza. There are 2 possible spots that we could divide this. Let's see if I can open up a way to draw on this thing. Okay. We could either, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of, right? Sand and water is a 3rd step as well. I think the most obvious place to separate it would be right here. Okay, I'm going to make this nice and big for us, hopefully. How do I do that? Here we go. Let's see. Hey, there we go. Change the color too. Hey, nice. Okay. I strongly recommend dividing it right here. Okay? And the reason why, when we separate these 2 body paragraphs, we want each paragraph to have a topic sentence. So the ideal situation is that we have everything within body 1 should be about one part of the story, one half of the story. Okay? We're almost telling the story like a 2-chapter novel. Okay? The first chapter is in body 1, the second chapter is in body 2. So we want them to have a different topic to them. Now this one, these first 4 steps, it seems to me the topic of this is how to transform clay into bricks, right? Or into, I guess, raw bricks, okay? How to get from step 1, clay, into the brick shape, okay? We haven't done any kind of drying or cooking. We're just forming the bricks. I guess that would be a key word there. Shaping the bricks, forming the bricks. From the raw material until the bricks are formed. That is chapter 1 of this story. Okay? Chapter 2 is the drying process. The drying, packaging, and delivering process. Okay, we've got a lot of details in here, so we've got plenty to talk about there. It seems like a more simple process, but there's a lot of details to mention in terms of the temperature. Okay? Now you want each of those body paragraphs to be, I'll say 2 to 4 sentences. Most of you will probably write 3 to 4 because basically the more complex your writing skill, the more information you can pack into one sentence. And sometimes that's pretty impressive to the examiner. Although sometimes not. You don't want to sacrifice clarity. Okay, so if you feel it's not quite clear, break it up into more sentences, all right? The more sentences there are, often the easier it is to make clear ideas with your sentences. All right. Okay, so homework. We've got our organization, okay? Introduce it by paraphrasing this sentence. Overview, this is going to be the hardest part, I think. Try to write 2 to 3 sentences summarizing the whole process. And then body 1, from clay to the brick formation. Body 2, drying, packaging, and delivering the bricks. All right, guys. Now, you're going to submit that to next week's event. I'm going to post that right now as soon as I finish this lesson. Write your things, post them in comments for that event. All right? I'm excited. This should be good. We don't do enough of these 2-part lessons. I think it's a good idea. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see. A couple comments here. Delivery is a different process. Yeah. But yeah, I think it should definitely be mentioned in the second paragraph. No 3 paragraphs. I really advise against writing 3 paragraphs for a body. 3 body paragraphs for task 1. It's not long enough to do that, actually. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. The question, Hamza, where should I submit my homework? Right now, I'm going to create an event called Task 1, Part 2. All right? And I'm going to put that event in the IELTS for All group. Okay, so go to IELTS for All, open up that event, and post your essay as a comment in that event. Okay, I want to see lots of submissions so we can see various vocabulary and various approaches being used. Okay, I'll give you all some feedback on that next week. All right, that's it for me, you guys. Once again, you can find more about my lessons at these 3 places. IELTS for All, the Facebook group, IELTSlessons.com for some private lessons with me, and the lesson archives. And remember, if you don't have any idea what your score is right now, that is the place to start, okay? So don't hesitate, find out what your score is. You will feel a lot more confident and secure in your IELTS preparation if you have a little bit of guidance at the beginning of your journey. It goes a long way, okay? All right, find out more, facebook.com, IELTS lessons for you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for a Task 2 lesson. All right, bye for now. See you tomorrow. Ta-ta.